All right, good afternoon, and welcome to our late afternoon video. Today, I want to discuss what's going to happen in terms of Section 8 housing. I don't want to argue the merits of whether or not people deserve to be on Section 8 or be in low income housing or even receive a voucher. This is an argument of looking at the administration's policies, they proceeded in the much larger picture. And to be frank with you, looking at this now, since the beginning of the administration, I think even I failed to see the bigger picture here. So, we're looking at a potential collapse of a system that's remained in place for a large portion of, the modern century. It's been in place mainly to serve seniors, veterans, homeless, and other subcategories that may assist people. But what I want to talk about is the implementation and the potential collapse of the system as it's presented today. And the final stroke, in my opinion, again, I want to examine the idea. So nobody needs to agree or disagree. But rolling back, let's go back to 2025. Some of the first implemented measures were eliminating, and I had to pull some numbers on this, but we eliminated 8,791 employees. Then we took another round at 6,299 employees. That was for HUD. We turned around as a first measure, and so there's 10,000 people that got terminated for one cause or another at HUD. Secondary measures were getting rid of the building, and then basically what's left of HUD itself, which is the whole basis of this program, has been relegated to a rental office. Dismantling of all the policies and procedures and protections that have been afforded through that agency have been cut severely. So that was a first volley of firing into this program. And then we look at, the first great measures that hit. They took and threw, I think, about 5 billion, up to 5 billion for homeless funding. So that represents a very large segment of what this does address, and through its other programs like continuum of care. And this has bounced around the court all the way up to almost the Supreme Court. And so we've lost that funding, and some cities have been even had the funding removed involuntarily. And so we watched LA go down first, and of course, federal investigations being rolled out. Then there's been the talk of AI and implementation to not only investigate housing authorities. So you see the stages here, right? Um, the implementation of AI and the investigation of many of the housing authorities around the nation, many being charged with crimes and insolvency and other issues, and going into receivership and failing, lack of funding and other things. And so you see that as a third volley in the system. And then, you know, now that we've looked at that and the funding is not really available for homeless funding, then we have new legislation rolling in before an October 1st date of this year, 2026. And as we look at that, it will put time limits and work requirements along with a very long laundry list of other things. And so you watch the system again undergo roughly 1.5 million people uh, being probably processed out of the system in virtually a year or two just after that. It put in place. And so far, I believe the administration's been quite successful in that. And so if you back up from those and you look back in time from HUD employees to the building, right? Then homeless funding and eliminating that entirely. The administration also wanted to do state block grants, which would have killed 100% of the funding. Was not successful there, but revisited now under current legislation for time limits and work requirements. That would effectively cut this program in half, plus the COC funding. So that would be 75% collapse of Section 8 housing, low income programs, and so on. And so, how far do you have to collapse something before it's actually collapsed? I would say that this would be the final volley. If approved by Congress as it stands in October 1st, the effect will be felt through 2027 as people get timed out. And so the system, as it's remained in place for more than 50 years now, you're watching pretty much the administration dissolve HUD itself, kill all the funding, and then what remains is really just loose change. And some seniors and a few veterans. There seems to be some defensive measures for veterans, but you're watching a 75% collapse in the system, and you're watching it as it plays out in just 2.5 years. Mind you, there's not another election for another 900 days, right? So another 2.5 years. If given that much time, we can do that much in such short period of time. 75% of the system being collapsed and dissolved. What do you think will happen with the final quarter? And so we live in different times. You know, a lot of agencies have felt pressures, including Medicare, even teachers and those receiving funding. But I would have you be very mindful. The consequences are very serious. When you deal with a building and you have four posts, you have four support beams holding the building up, right? Let's just suggest that idea. When you remove three, how many of those do you need to remove to cause a complete collapse? Collapse meaning not only does it break, and it means that it can no longer really be used properly anymore, that nobody can come back again and really rebuild it the same way. And so we removed one post, two, and now three, and given another two year 900 days, another two years or more. um I don't really know that HUD Section 8 housing or low income housing will ever be the same anymore, if it's approved the way that they're looking at it from October 1st. So it's not a fantastic idea to scare anybody, but do understand, even I, when I backed up and looked at it, the implementation here, step by step, month after month, and year after year, it would appear that the whole gambit has been from the very beginning to dissolve this agency and its funding down to virtually nothing, and then it becomes a bygone thought. Um, that's the only clear and ever present conclusion I can reach. Without homeless funding and without the vast majority of current funding, and mind you, the administration made very clear for the following year, 2027, that they're not going to fund one additional dollar for anybody to enter the system. They're only looking at maintenance. In other words, whoever's got it will maintain that at least until the implementation of October's rules, which would knock out roughly half of all people in the program across the US. And so, what do we do with 4 million, with millions of homeless, and then additional 1.5 or more million people or families that are going to just become homeless? Do the math here. I mean, you don't need to believe or trust me regarding this matter. I mean, I worked at federal level 26 years. I know what I'm talking about, but I think anybody that has a good mouse with a battery that's fully charged could simply go in and do their own research and determine that it doesn't take much to reach this conclusion. Uh, a large portion of this is being collapsed, and so two posts are down. The third one comes for October. Um, in the future with AI, I don't even think there's going to be a requirement or need for even having housing authorities. And while sometimes to dissolve the assets and other things of a federal agency, I don't think it'll completely disappear, but I don't think it'll ever be as grand as it is in scale now. And I don't think logically, if you look at politics and elections, I don't think any president, whether Democratic, Independent, or Republican, is going to put on their ticket that, oh, by the way, when I come into office, I'm going to relight HUD and bring it back to what it used to be. Nobody's trying to do that. So, what I'm telling you is the future of Section 8 is probably greatly diminished. And I think this is common sense. I don't think you need in practicality to do a high level of research to determine this. Without HUD's building, without 10,000 employees being terminated, with no new funding, and with the cutting of all homeless funding, and then furthermore implementing measures that would kill and remove, I shouldn't say kill, but terminate roughly half of all voucher holder users of 1.5 million over a course of 1 to 4 years, would tell me that what started back in 24, 25 will only be one quarter of what it is. Let me know if any building can survive with only one post out of four. And so, do we logically conclude that was the whole plan to start? Even I failed really to see that very clearly. It's like looking through muddy water. I thought the actions were happening, but they more closely aligned with something very clear and ever present. and that's that, in the future, this system may only be available for a select few. And then if you include fraud, friends, family, and political constituents, once the housing authority and its employees service all their friends and guests in their homes and give them vouchers, then who exactly is going to be that quarter, that one or two vouchers that have somehow landed on the floor that they've got a good conscience give to other people that are not connected to them. So it's a big problem, and I know the argument has been marching along through the administration as a lot of fraud, but look, we've installed a lot of people over HUD that stole more money through that agency than they ever did trying to apply for a housing choice voucher. So the message we should all be receiving and considering tonight, as we digest this, will be whether or not 75% of this system as it stands now will be present in the next 4 years. And does this actually lend to the credence of saying that, yeah, it's really the collapse of the system brought on by an administration? Now, another thing I'd like to point out is if you look closely, I just want to bring something up. And again, I don't have any objection to or against Trump or his administration. I agree with about a half of everything that every president ever does, but his measures have been rather aggressive in terms of this. I don't think the system can sustain another 2 years of changes. We if we were to continue on the current path of defunding court cases, battles, and defunding, I don't feel there may not even be 10% of Section 8 as you know it left. There won't be anybody left to write policy. We only have a marginal few left through HUD. All the protections that were afforded have been wiped out, challenged in court. And so, what do you guys think? That's what this video is about. It's not to argue your political position. It's not to come here and argue whether or not people deserve it or not. It's to consider the factual basis of, is this fundamentally the end as a whole, as a bigger picture? Will we experience a much reduced version of this? And is this on its current path going to happen fairly quickly, starting October, and the biggest portion being probably within the first year by 28? It aligns quite perfectly with the end of the administration. So I almost feel that this could have been premeditated and its goal, whether it was thoughtfully done or not, But it worried me enough to bring it up because I think we should all consider that. Does that actually bring fear factor to people? It probably should. I mean, base the conversation, research it, and if you're still scared, then that's probably the perfectly normal way that a human would respond when understanding what's happening, right? All you need to do is validate that through your own research. It doesn't need to be me or my channel, but I think we're here. And I think that if the very program that we're getting rid of for the large part is gone, then who exactly is going to fund nothing? Where does that money come from? All right, guys, I'm gonna move on to comments here. I don't want to turn this into a long conspiracy video in the middle of the night. It was wearing on my mind, and also I've got a couple sick cats right now. Apparently, some of my cats got into some poison, or somebody attempted to do something awful to my cats, and now I have not just one sick cat, but I have three. One that's near death, and two others that are quickly becoming imminently sick, and so to take my mind off a lot of that, I am here just talking about something probably just as evil. But all right, so moving on to comments. Sheila Neal, good evening, everyone. And Mr. J, well, thank you. And thank you for joining us this afternoon around 8 o'clock at night, depending on where you are in the world. Um, Mr. or Mrs. Williams, good evening to you as well. Double C85, good evening, Jay. Well, good evening to you. Tone says, question, are those who are 50 plus with disabilities affected by these cuts? Well, frankly, there's a large variety of cuts of happening. So it depends on which one you're talking about. But I can tell you this, the only people that really have a defense against any of this, a little bit, would be those that are likely 62 years and older, or could prove they're disabled. I don't think there are any other qualifying factors that can be considered at this point. The system is being stripped down to bare metal at this point, and whatever's left after it's stripped it gets cut. The pie gets cut in half, and if you're on the wrong side of that cake when it gets cut, then you've got to go flow. That's how it works out. Uh, President Trump doesn't play around with this, but I would argue that we're probably moving a little too quickly. It's not enough time to adjust, but that's surely my opinion. All right, Judy, I believe, good evening. I'd like to say this administration is an emoji, an evil emoji. Okay, well, you're certainly entitled to your opinion, and you're welcome to share that as long as it remains respectful and does not agitate to others to the best of your ability, right? So I understand that evil people are going to start fighting back. Well, everybody has an option to wish that what they wish to do. Okay, with limits. Okay, guys. So we're not here to argue against each other. We're just looking and examining the topic here and seeing how we all kind of reach our conclusions. Okay. Zenith Cat, I'm 70 years old on HUD with Social Security and had to go back to work just to eat. It's crazy. I share that sentiment with you, Zencat. I retired in January, and as of a conversation I've had both with my CPA and family, I'm probably going to be coming out of retirement because I had planned a retirement in a normal economy, and because of extreme high pricing, um, because of the because of other pressures and influence in the economy, it created havoc within my own company. Not just me, others. I talked to my banker today. There's a lot of people that retirement's not even a possibility at this point unless we bring this whole hyperinflation under control. So I thought that I was going to be able to retire. Well, that's almost just a wishful thinking at this point. Uh, a lot of people in America right now that are not upper middle class or wealthy, a lot of you are just surviving day to day, week to week. One incidental thing happens and you need an extra couple $100 and you ain't got it, then it starts a chain reaction system. I've had to deal with some serious health issues with cancer, to be honest. I've had to deal with cancer since January. I've been very sick. I mean, I spend 3, 4 days in bed and then I'm out and I come make a video when I have the most energy. I might pop up at midnight. I might pop up at 8 o'clock. It just depends. Plus, I'm taking care of sick cats and I'm trying to make 100 videos every week. Why would I make so many videos? Not because I'm trying to get rich, but to be frank with you guys, because I'm about to come out of retirement. Nothing pays like it used to, right? It takes double the amount of videos. And I think we're all just trying to survive. Otherwise, everybody's going to be homeless. And that's the reality. I'm not here because of joy. I remember what it used to mean to make videos for fun. They don't feel fun anymore. Not when I not when I go to a gas station and I've got to pay $6 to $8 in gas. When I fill up you get a drink from the soda fountain machine, it's fucking $5. And when you get a Snickers bar that used to cost 50 cents and now it's fucking $4. So I have to I have to get on fucking layaway just to leave my driveway. So the pressure's real. So then how am I supposed to deal with the medical care of my cats if all this shit is going to suck up 6 to 8 thousand a month? I couldn't even imagine what it might be like right now to be one of you where you've got a social security check for 900 or 1200. But I can tell you since January, my company's going in reverse. We burned $45,000 trying to keep going. There's an end to every choo-choo. And so the reality of it is, everybody that's about middle class and lower is just fucking struggling, and they only can afford essentials. And so that's the reality. I have to question myself whether or not I can give fair treatment to my own cats, or would it be cheaper to simply put them down than have them suffer through what could be potentially bad news financially. So we all face this all together. We're all Americans. Some have more, some have less. You know, I've been to hell and back with this about 6 times this year. Um, I don't sleep at night either. I mean, I buy a box of treats, the little kinds you open the top and you spend $25. That's gone in 3 days. Where the fuck am I going to get $800 a month right now to spend just on cat treats? That's not to mention cost, medical bill, right? You see what my problem is? So I'm like many of you, you know, I wonder day to day, do I need to go spin at the light pole and go make 50 cents as a prostitute? What do I got to do to calm down the economy? And this year alone, we put what 100. We put out 1 million. Over 1 million small businesses failed because nobody's got fucking any money extra to spend. The wealthy can keep going. They can keep going to Macy's. I clearly didn't make that category. I'm only one slice above the people I service. I would almost claim to say that we could probably eat at the same places because everything has to be considered. And for me, since I don't have children, I put me and those cats first. I'll sell all my shit before I watch my cats get kicked out the door and into the forest. I'll sell every fucking light bulb when that happens. But I can't even retire with cancer. I can't even afford the treatment they're trying to offer me. So what do? I can come in the video, we can discuss realities. Of course, it's my wish to be able to treat this and go on, but I mean, who's got fucking 2 or 3 grand every month to give it to that? So we resigned as a human that we can no longer afford to live. We resign that we have to murder our own pets because we can't fucking afford to treat them. Because people that own corporations have figured out how to make most of the money and decisions while the rest of us simply have to eat shit and die. Let me know if I call that fucking right. So let's get real. This is where we are with it. You know, I'm not just discussing my personal business, but I'm discussing even my pets. It's a good thing I'm an old Cajun from Louisiana. We're willing to fight to the end. There are many more that would just walk off the end of a bridge that deal with all this shit. But we're not here to discuss whether or not people have dark thoughts about staying or going and leaving this earth. What we're discussing is a much larger issue at play, and that's half the people that are on housing right now could be phased out of the program over the next 4 years. And that's not including the other things we discussed earlier in this video. Rewinded. I've said that is I mean, I've said it in such a way that it's about as easy as you can to understand it and left you with a clear material thought process. Do you see what I see? Do my eyes lie to me? Do my ears lie to me? And so what's left after October 1st and how it proceeds from there may be a much diminished program. And it may remain that way, as I don't believe any US president's going to want to rebuild something like this. And so where do we go from there? That is the argument of the hour. It is not the challenge of whether people deserve it or not. It's where we are with it right now. So moving on back, gosh, there's a lot of comments. Rosalind, let's see, Divine writes, hi, hey there, have a few questions. Thank you for being here consistently. I certainly try. Sometimes I'm like a broken record. I'll make videos every day, but when you've got me sick and you have 3 or 4 cats sick, like I said, you know, just short of being a prostitute on 3rd Street, you got to do what you got to do to make money, you know? And look, this YouTube channel will generate much. Okay. Anyway, Sheila Neal, thank you, Mr. J, coming on, and you're concerned about housing and crisis. Appreciate the help. It's scary, horrible what's happening. It's a tough situation, but I believe that if there's any community of people in the United States that is better equipped to deal with adversity and extreme change, it's going to be people that make the least and get the least in America. I believe those are the real survivors in America, for better or worse. Okay, that's my personal thoughts. Nobody needs to share them. Moving from there, Rosalind goes on, what a catastrophic mess this will turn into. That's exactly why I mentioned the word in the title. But if you look at the first 10 minutes of this video, I was very careful to support that concept if you listen to what I said there. So moving on there, Divine writes, I have been looking into allocations and appropriations, and it has said that the tax fund from the government, will it cover less than 1%? Did you choose these actors to distribute your portion? Well, I appreciate the sophistication in which you said that. I don't know that my meager mind has completely, interpreted what you've said there, but needless to say, yeah, there's big problems. So's Fizzy Patrick. Can't quite see that comment. Oh, here we go. Goes on to say, prank for everyone, especially you and your cats. If you want to pray for anybody, just pray for the cats that are sick. Okay, don't worry about me. I've had mine. Let the cats be the biggest concern. If anybody is interested, okay, don't worry about me. I'll go one way or another. Betty Skybird, bless you, Jake. Well, thank you very much, Rosen. This is turning into a dystopian hell. Well, it's an obvious change in the world. It's based on reality, and we are where we are. Let October decide the final fate of all this. But in my opinion, I believe the facts do support the cause of this is really the collapse of what we know the system as and what's going to be left of it, the quarter of what's left, and along with a big old fucking mouse, a million or more people mentioned as homeless, cut out and restrained from the program, and only some left. Those that are seniors and disabled will likely be the least touched. Many more won't survive that. So we need to start thinking about what the future holds for next year. Am I right in my thinking? Has my argument been appropriate? Has it been extreme? Is it connected to reality? Look at the video, rewind it, ask yourself that. Donna Brown, thank you for the stream. I do hope your cats get well. I'm a cat lover too. I love my cats a lot, man. You don't know how much it tears me up to have to deal with three cats that 3 or 4, including my 26-year-old cat, and then we may lose her in a couple of days because of somebody's negligence or otherwise spite of poisoning my cat, somebody that I've had with me half my life, then turning around and either through poisoning or environmental causes, end up killing another, close to killing 2 more of my cats that are pretty well known, which would be Pops and Little Mama. And these cats combined another 15 years. These aren't simple ornaments that I picked up at the dollar store. These are cuts that have been through entire decades with me. And by one cause or another, I'm now left reeling and probably over 10,000 in bills to possibly stop or prevent the eventuality of their death. I've gone through the circumstance of both love and hate with this, and even consider revenge. But I don't really know what's happening until it probably will be too late, leaving me only with one cat left if it all goes down. So let's just hope it doesn't. I'm hoping that my vet can reverse course and figure out what's happening, what's going on. I'll figure out what to do if it's a bad actor. But I mean, could things get any possibly any more fucked up for me? But before I cry myself a river and jump off a bridge, I also have to consider the many of you out there that have to deal in these programs that already don't have much and have faced these kind of adversities probably for most of your life. So that's exactly why I'm not really here to plead my case and my sympathies. My concern is greater is to those that already have lived through hellish circumstances through the system and are watching it dissipate. So moving on from there, Rosalind goes on, you're right. I will never let anyone bring me down. I've stood at the gates of hell and I'll fight a good fight. That's exactly what I told my banker at Wells Fargo today, because I had a very brutal conversation with him. The banker was about my age. And I said, I'm gonna tell you something most people aren't gonna tell you. And I said, I'm gonna be brutally honest. Business isn't great. It's business has been terrible. It all started with the changes from the administration. So my argument's not against the president, but obviously policies that affect what I do and as a company, and obviously people that benefit from the program from being in it that are qualified. Okay, but I've had to make a lot of tough decisions. So imagine having to come out of retirement being sick and mounting debts. My days are I've cried so much that I cannot do it. It's not even humanly possible anymore because I didn't expect that I would have to sit here and continue to fight for my own life and then have to go back to fucking work after giving 26 years of my life to all of this and to have it all fucking unrolled, tangled, messed up, inflated, inflation, crazy economy. I might as well go out and get a styrofoam cup and just fucking start panhandling for change on the fucking freeway to even afford the gas at this point. You know, you go to the grocery store, even a fucking honey bun's $9 fucking dollars. So, I mean, I'm really gonna have to hang out at the light. It'd be cheaper to be a fucking drug addict to even walk in the grocery store. I mean, honestly, I'm at my wit's end. I think a lot of you already are. I'm only sharing the sentiment as it is accumulated in me. Here I am at 8, 9 o'clock at night, putting my shit in the street because it affects everybody. It ain't just the low income. It ain't just the people in the trailer park. It ain't just the people in the hood. It's everybody, all the way up to the middle class. You got people that can't even afford to feed their fucking children. They got houses they can't even afford to note on, and nobody can even walk into a store anymore unless you're the medium high class or the wealthy. To suppose that we've made every perfect choice in life. Soccer mom, right? So it's a contentious argument, right? But it's reality. And life ain't fair. That's the first lie your mama ever told you. I remember the first lie my mama ever told me. I didn't realize it till I got older. She told me I could be everything I wanted. Maybe she was right about that, but it certainly don't mean you're ever going to be important, rich, or wealthy. So be careful the advice you take. It don't always end up going the way you might imagine. And the people that end up really making it real well in this world, well, I've seen lots of them. I've seen 13-year-olds invent toys out of a fucking machine and produce more money in a single month than my entire life's work. And then you wonder at the value of life when you've got a child with a making toys can drive it better. When you got it, children at 6 years old, the YouTube channel can garner 20 million fucking views because they set their hair on fire and rode their tricycle off a roof and they get 40 million views. But I'll spend 15 years of my life on YouTube trying to help people survive basic necessity of housing, right? And I can barely garner a few thousand views. So you see, the world we live in was never designed to be fairy, ever fucking realistic. So maybe your mom's right. You can be anything you want. Doesn't mean you're ever going to amount to shit without the money. So I digress from there. Don't take it too darkly, guys. I'm in a bit of a mood tonight, and I wanted to share some of the shitty news with you guys. As if none of it. I'm not saying this as if I'm preaching to a choir. I think we all realize at some point. Maybe I'm the one that's late to the choir meeting here, but I think the reality is really set in at this point what October really means and what the next 900 days is probably going to mean further in these programs. One thing I got to say is I'm just ready for all this shit to be over. We really can't afford to involve any more war kidnappings, wars, popping of bombs, all this shit because it's just creating the pressure, too much pressure on low income and moderate income people in the country. And with AI jumping in and dissolving a lot of jobs, it's putting the fucking country in a super desperate situation for those that are in the lower fucking half. Anybody here on the lower half, or is everybody independently wealthy that's watching this video? Let me know. Okay. I'm pretty sure people that got money got better shit to do than watch me sit here and carry on. So they're probably at the ballet right now. They're not listening to me. Matthew, James, thank you so much for joining the channel. Divine, cats are special animals and would not be mad if you created a trust just for you and the cats. Well, if we're going to have anything in the trust, I need the cats to get better. And if somebody's poisoning my cats, I need them to fucking stop before they bankrupt me. Pizzo, that's me as well. We speak. My Section 8 case manager has crossed so many boundaries lately. There's only a certain point you can push housing programs before the villagers come out with a gas can and matches, and then you start seeing housing authorities fucking go up in flames. You know, it may be misguided to even think in those terms, but honestly, if we add, it is a powder keg right now. If we go in and we decide, and if we let the rich folks in Congress decide to do time limits and work requirements and fucking give 2 million people walking papers and dissolve the rest of what's left, then look, the most dangerous thing a human can be is desperate. And when they ain't got shit to lose, they're especially dangerous. Why? Because they have something to fucking prove. It means that you not only insulted them, but now they're so fucking mad they're not going to stop. And so it's reprehensible that we reach this date and to think that everybody's just going to go quietly tonight. Sure, I'll do prayer circles on the sidewalk. Thank you for putting me out. So there's a reckoning. There are consequences to all actions, big and small. We can't sustain much more nationwide for elderly, senior, disabled, and so on. The program is a necessity for a portion. Not everybody's going on to be rich. Okay. And as an American, every taxpayer has a right to utilize the system if they're qualified. Right. So, and thankfully, most people don't. Piazza, no, let it out. I have, trust me. I've let it out more than I care to. In fact, I've shared my opinion a few times in traffic as well. Zora, what the fuck, your poor cats? Yeah, tell me about it. So last announcement. So Pops fell ill 3 days ago. He remained unconscious for most of the day. I thought was sleeping, and so I had to rush him to a pet hospital. And then I get up today, and now little mama's down, and so all my cats are going through what appears to be organ failure, and it's either environmental concerns or somebody fucking poisoned my cats. So on top of all the other shit I got to deal with, you know, all the other shit I got to deal with, including my own health problems trying to kill me. I now have over 10,000 in vet bills to try to keep them alive. And to be honest with you, I'll sell everything I've got because who's going to sit in my home and stare at a wall? You know, what would be the point? So that here we are. One thing I have done is I've implemented a measure from my final cat, little Diamond that we rescued. I don't let her out the house until I'm able to figure out what's happened. And nor I don't have any evidence that anything is something bad has happened to the cats because of a person. Okay, we don't know, but I'm looking to find out what's going on, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to keep them alive. But if the vet tells me we're beyond reproach and that there will be no quality of life left, what shall I do? One day I wake up, I have 4 cats. One day I wake up again, and almost all of them are going to be dead. So these are the days that I'm trying to live through right now, on top of every other fucking thing happening in this planet. So, moving up there, Kenny, Patrick, Hillary Clinton killed my cat. Okay, well, I'm not sure how that must have worked out. Um, Tone, question. My apologies, but just to be clear, those who are 62 plus disabilities to a certain degree, somewhat safe. Yes, I did mention that earlier in the video. Dog bones. So age 62 and up, safe for Section 8, of course. God, you guys' will to survive is really good. Despite my sad story, y'all still want to confirm whether or not you're safe. That's good. Okay. It's moisture, EMP signals. Honey, if that were the case, then I'm sure the cell phone tower that's 12 feet away from my backyard would have already fucking killed us. So please spin the wheel and give me a different explanation. It can't be that. I'm not trying to be offensive, but honestly, Zora, cameras. I do have cameras, but unfortunately, most cats have about a half a neighborhood walking zone. They like to go and pee on every tree. At least the males do. So, all right, guys. Look, I've enjoyed talking with you. I've enjoyed being candid. I've enjoyed raising the ideas and concepts. It's your responsibility to take the information that I have presented to verify it and then reach your own conclusion. I'm not here to convince you of anything. But in principle, we go back to one simple factor. We cut all the HUD employees, we get rid of the building, we cut homeless funding, which is what half the system, and then we start to try to implement newer policies for October, which would be a 4-year process to eliminate another half. So if we do some simple deductive math and you learn in preschool, right? You get rid of the building, the employees, right? HUD, then you get rid of the funding for the homeless, and then you kick out half the people on a voucher, means that 1 + 1 + 1 equals 75% of the system. When you knock out the 3 or 4 posts that are holding the house up, what does it do? It collapses. So I'm hoping that we can all reach the same logical conclusion, though I did present it in a more YouTube-ish, clickish way, right? All right, guys, you enjoy your nights. I'm gonna go and pet my last remaining cat and hope for the best over the next few days for Kiki's. And I'm gonna see you tomorrow because I no longer have a choice. I'm gonna have to actually work all the way through being sick. I probably restart part of my company and come completely out of retirement because I can no longer, even I cannot afford at the rapid pace of inflation to remain just simply retired. I can't do it, despite I've been already putting 26 years of this shit. I have to come back, clock back into fucking Walmart, and do even more. So to be honest with you, whenever God calls, pops my ticket, thank God for that because honestly, I'm already tired of this shit. All right, guys, you have a wonderful night. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll talk about some more things that are easier and pleasant. I know there's a lot of bubbly people, and they only accept messages that are bubbly. We serve those as well at my restaurant. So if you want bubbles and positivity, we got lots of chakra and everything, baby. We bring lots of shit to the table. We serve all kinds. Okay. If you've got Martians in your hair, your tin hat's got a kink in it, I service that too. Okay. So anybody out there, if you're a prostitute and you lost one flip flop and you're lonely, come on to the channel. Jay will take care of it. I understand your position. You got 12 children, you're living in the forest in a tent. I fix those problems too. It seems in my little old world of shit, I deal with lots of things as a consultant that deals with Section 8. So, but I do ask that please don't contact my office if you've been pulling on a meth pipe or doing drugs. You need to be sober. I cannot deal with people that are strung out. Okay. I've enjoyed talking with you tonight, and I want you guys to just carefully consider what the future holds the next 900 days and whether or not any of us are going to manage to be better or worse for it. Okay. Good night.